Hey everyone, I'm Ian Douglas, the author of the website techinterview.guide. I do live streams every Sunday and Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern about topics relevant to interview preparation for the tech industry. I occasionally record longer Q&A sessions, and I've started to break those into smaller videos to post. And there'll be information at the end of this video about how to get in contact with me if you have additional questions. Let's get to it. The next one, which is kind of on a similar topic, someone's asking, how can I interview my programming logic to succeed in technical interviews? And this question kind of stems from the idea of, well, now I have a technical challenge. How do I get better at solving those kinds of technical challenges? The good news is it comes down to practice. The bad news is practice takes time. And if you haven't got the time, you kind of need to know, well, what do you study? How do you study best? I built up a YouTube video a little while back using Sean's website, and you can go find that on YouTube. Just search my YouTube. It's youtube.com/Ian Douglas, and on there you can search for a video about LeetCode and how to shorten that LeetCode grind. And what I do in there is I kind of talk about, like, go find those top algorithms and then go find how other people solve them and kind of reverse engineer their solution into pseudocode, so that you can study the strategies. So the next time someone says they give you a problem, you're like, oh, that sounds like the knapsack problem, or that sounds like the making change problem, or that sounds like, this or that kind of problem, like, number of islands kind of problem. You'll have a better idea of, oh, that sounds like it's going to be this kind of algorithm. So let me go apply that strategy in some pseudocode, and let me see if that's going to solve the problem. And if it does, great. If it doesn't, go figure out what other kind of problem it might be. So there's lots of tools out there to do that kind of stuff, but you can definitely check out that YouTube video. I'll go try to find it real quick, and I'll drop that in chat as well. So let's see. YouTube, Ian Douglas, LeetCode grind. There it is, copy address, and we will go paste that in the chat. All right, so this is my LeetCode grind video, and I'll put that in the YouTube show notes as well. And if you're listening on the podcast, again, you can just go to youtube.com/Ian Douglas, and you'll see a little search on there, and you can just search for LeetCode, and you'll see a video called How to Reduce the LeetCode Grind to Prepare for Technical Interviews. Again, that's just one way to sort of prepare. But by coming up with those strategies, I find that studying those strategies, like for a backtracking algorithm, for example, you're looping over a number of decisions. You're applying a decision, and then you're probably doing some kind of recursion to repeat all that work. And then when the recursion returns, you're maybe going to undo that decision that you made, and then going back up to your loop to the next decision, and so on. And so every backtracking algorithm comes down to those 4 steps. You're looping over something. You're acting on that decision, you're recursing, and then you're undoing that decision. And then you go back up to the loop until you run out of things to do, and then that returns from how it got called. That's every backtracking algorithm in 4 steps. And so as you can reverse engineer other people's ideas and solutions, you can figure out how to reverse engineer that into these common sorts of like 4, 5, 6 steps. And then write those out on little Post-it notes and put them around your monitor, put them around your laptop, or keep them in a notebook or something. So the next time you face a technical challenge like this person is asking about, like, how do I improve my logic? It's going to come down mostly to recognizing what kind of problem it is. And once you have a pretty good feel for, like, this feels like this kind of algorithm or that kind of algorithm, then you can apply those strategies. That's the best way to start with that. Now, once you apply that strategy, you still have to kind of fill in all of the other things that you have to do, because those strategies, like the strategy for one kind of problem, isn't going to solve everything. Like that backtracking thing that I just described, you've got those 4 common steps, but there's still other work that has to happen around that loop, and maybe other things that should happen inside that loop for how you need to process what you're doing. So you can start with those strategies, but then you have to figure out then, how do I fill in all of the other steps? And a lot of that honestly comes down to practice as well. Like, how do you practice breaking a problem down into smaller and smaller pieces? When I started college back in 1993, 1993 is when I started my electrical engineering program. I switched to computer engineering in 1994, and my first class that I had at that college, The professor walked in and said, okay, you're going to work in, as part of a team, and you're going to like shout out instructions. We want to have a robot cross the street. So how do we tell the robot to cross the street? And so we're just shouting out like really high level things, like just take a step forward and walk. And he's like, okay, well, you take a step forward and you fall off the sidewalk. And we're all like, well, you didn't tell us we're on a sidewalk. And he kind of shot back and was like, well, you need to ask clarifying questions. Like, you can't just assume you have all of the information. Like, you have to ask for that kind of information. And so we got better at asking him those clarifying questions and coming up with more and more steps. And so it's really the process of how do you take a problem, break it down into smaller and smaller pieces to where the piece is so small that now you can write a line of code to solve that, and then probably back up from there, and then like back up a step from there. Because generally your pseudocode shouldn't be so specific that you can turn the pseudocode into real code, like a one-to-one line of code kind of thing. Your pseudocode should still be pretty vague. But that's kind of the preparation that you need to do to get better at those programming logic problems. If you have other questions about that, please reach out to me. I'm happy to discuss that in deeper detail. Hey, thanks for watching. I love helping people out with interview prep, and I hope this video helped you in some way. If you found this Q&A useful, please consider subscribing. You can follow me on Twitch as well for the live stream twice a week. Check out techinterview.guide/streaming for more information. I also have a daily email series that you can subscribe to on the website. There are never any ads, and when you finish the series, I scrub your information out of my database permanently. Finally, if you have a question that you'd like answered on the stream, you can find my contact info on techinterview.guide. I prefer LinkedIn or email. If you leave your question in a YouTube comment, it might take me longer to find it, but I'll see you next time.